Reading in Job chapter 35, verse 2, and as you may or may not know, I am reading through the Bible in my grandpa's Bible, the Bible that he preached from. That may be near 100 years old, and of course it is the King James translation, and everyone goes, oh, all I had to hear is King James, and I'm reading it because it's my grandpa's Bible. When I come upon something that I think is interesting or relevant, I will study it in other translations and in other ways. Here is an example of what I came upon today, and I thought this was really interesting. In chapter 35 of Job, verse 2 in the King James Version, it says, "Thinkest thou this to be right, that thou sayest, my righteousness is more than God's?" And that made me think of, the first time I talked to Reginald back when he was still a cartoon character.
In an evolved society, we need an evolved Bible. There are laws and standards in the existing Bible that are simply outdated.
And he thought his righteousness, his morality was really more up to date than God's, and God should update his morality.
Of course, we all would prefer that God would make the revisions. Well, of course, I would be happy to advise him.
So I looked that verse up in the other two versions that I mostly flip between. In the New American Standard, that verse is, "Do you think this is in accordance with justice? Do you say, my righteousness is more than God's?" Okay, pretty similar to the King James. New Revised Standard, "Do you think this to be just? You say, I am in the right before God." That's a little bit different. That's kind of saying that my righteousness is conforming to God's, not that my righteousness exceeds the righteousness of God. What I like to do then is go online and look at the actual Hebrew words and see how they're translated in other places. You can go online and enter in your search engine Job 35:2 Hebrew. And that text will come up. If you click on the word itself that is in question, all the places where that word appears and how it's translated in the different translations come up. So when you do that, what you are looking at is how literally hundreds of Hebrew scholars have translated that verb in various places in the Bible. And that way you can get an overall sense of the meaning of that word. When I look through all those possibilities, it seems to me that that word has a direction of from God to me. Maybe like an indirect object, God gave something to me. I get the sense that God is the source of righteousness, of morality, of what is right. Of course, there's more to the translation of that. We find that Job's comforters, Eliphaz, Zophar, Bildad, are speaking truth, sort of, not so much incorrect, but as incomplete. I would suggest when you find a verse that you find really interesting, that you want to apply, do the work, do the study. Make sure when you apply it, you're applying it correctly.